to rail again. He's unstoppable and he drives it long, as good as it gets from this 18-year-old wonderkin.
We're announcing today that we are postponing the Essendon v Melbourne game tomorrow after receiving notification today that an Essendon player has tested positive to the COVID-19 virus.
Hello, I'm Damian Barrett and welcome to Access All Areas. Just 2 weeks into footy's return and a player has tested positive to COVID-19 already. A match has been postponed and there's a whole lot more fallout to come. Matthew Lloyd, as always, is with me on Access All Areas. And, Lloyd, this is a very big issue for the Essendon Football Club, for Conor McKenna, for the AFL.
Oh, it's huge, Damo. All the questions I've got in my own mind. Will Conor McKenna just miss and we can just roll on Saturday night, Essendon v Carlton? Will all the Essendon backline be out?
Yep.
And do Essendon have to front up with no backline and manufacture something? Or can we have a bye at some stage down the track, Damo, to make up those games and not have the integrity of the competition compromised like this?
And these are all questions that are being discussed. We are talking, as always, on an early Monday morning. This is Conor McKenna at the Friday training session of the Essendon Football Club. And although this will move, as everything is moving in season 2020, as the hours unfold. But a worst-case scenario for Essendon, we can almost rule out the whole club being taken out of action. So we can remove that, but therefore then a worst-case scenario is the 7 players who train closely with McKenna will also be unavailable for this weekend's game. That's the worst-case scenario. The best-case scenario is only McKenna missing, and believe it or not, that is what is being talked about as we speak right now. This could still unfold where only McKenna misses a game. Again, developments will unfold today, and it is ultimately up to the DHHS, the Victorian Health Authority, to make the decision on what close contact with Conor McKenna means.
And that's what the AFL would want, wouldn't they? That just Conor McKenna misses, but Essendon fronts up on Saturday night. Is there any chance at all that this game doesn't go ahead, do you think?
No, there's no chance at all. This game won't go ahead. This game will go ahead. If Essendon has got 25 available players, the 22 on the ground and 3 emergencies, it will be played. And there's an issue with that, isn't there, from an integrity perspective? If they have unavailable players for COVID-19 against a team that isn't suffering the same fate, where do you sit with that aspect of it?
I think that, to be honest, we've got to look at how this happened with Conor McKenna. So if Conor McKenna has stepped outside, will he get a suspension for breaching protocols? And if he has done that, AFL may say Conor made an error here, so that's on you, Essendon. But in saying that, the rest of the competition must be saying, if Carlton makes the finals, the top 8 by 4 points, and they played an under-strength test, and all those things come in. But I think it's one of those seasons. We just have to deal with it, unfortunately. The
specifics of McKenna, they will be dealt with by the AFL down the track. The issue right now is his health, and at the moment, from what we've been told, it's a lower level reading. Now, what that means medically, Lord, I don't know, but there is a form of comfort in whatever positive test he's produced, it's at the lower end. Now, again, I'll let medical authorities explain what that means. But the reason that gives the club and the AFL some level of comfort is that the level of exposure may be of a reduced nature as well. Again, this will move as the day unfolds, but I can tell you that the AFL, it will be guided by the DHHS of Victoria, but it will also be lobbying very hard to have only McKenna being the player missing this game.
So could the Victorian health authorities come over the top of the AFL and say, these players need to quarantine for 14 days, and it's out of your hands, AFL?
Absolutely they could. And the AFL is on record as saying it will abide by whatever the authorities are saying in any given state at any given time. So that is the ultimate situation with it. It does leave, obviously, the Melbourne game that was meant to be played on Saturday yet to have a scheduling. That will be played next month at the earliest. But the game against Carlton, Essendon versus Carlton, Saturday night, as scheduled, will go ahead provided there are 25 available players.
And I have Essendon people say to me, what if every other player negative? They'll all be tested today, you would think?
As we speak, they're being tested.
All come back negative? That doesn't matter. Players who have been around McKenna in certain situations, doesn't matter if they're negative, they could still miss games.
As with everything in life, there's wiggle room on definitions. The close contact is the key phrase out of this. There's wiggle room within the close contact. all protocols, as far as we're led to believe, Lloyd, have been abided by in terms of the meetings, the training sessions, the gym sessions that McKenna has been involved with. It's obviously a good and positive starting point to have these heavier conversations about the potential for McKenna and 7 other players missing. It's not the only big picture issue, though, is it? Adam Simpson, the coach of the West Coast Eagles, quite surprisingly to me, Lordo, pre-match, Friday before Saturday's game against the Brisbane Lions, had this to say about his club's light living on the South East Queensland hub.
I think our position is if we can't quarantine in our own houses when we get back and stay in a hotel for another 2 weeks, we need to get home after Richmond. So that's our position, and we're pretty strong on that. I mean, to play another 2 or 3 games here and then have to go back to Perth and sit in a hotel for another 2 weeks, we're not here to complain, but we've got to look after our staff and our players, and it's probably a bridge too far.
There's no doubt it's a tough situation that they're in, not having an end date. And there's a lot of, I know, there'd be kids asking their fathers, when are you coming home, Dad? They can't give an answer. I know there'd be wives saying, when are you coming home? They can't give an answer. But I just wonder whether it was for Craig Bozzo, the head of footy, to be out there publicly stating this, because, again, players sitting in their hotel rooms watching Adam Simpson saying, we need to get home, we need this. There's no doubt it can filter through the rest of the team. And we saw him at the end of the game sit with his players in front of him. I wonder if he's just said, OK, I've said these things. We've now dropped 2 in a hub. We're probably going to be here for another 3 weeks. Let's deal with it now. But they might be saying, Adam, you're the one that's put it out there in such a negative way. So, just hope this tipping point has come and they can get on with it from this point on.
Even his words there, we're not here to complain. But that's exactly what they're doing, isn't it? And it's being led to and fed to the public as much as the players. And it's a bad look. They've had 2 really bad games in the 2 weeks they've played up in that hub.
And then you see McGovern do what he did, and then he's on crutches after playing in a seconds game. So it's going from bad to worse up there.
And we'll discuss the specifics of the Brisbane Lions lost by the West Coast in a few moments' time. But a team in that hub is actually based there permanently, is flying. 2 wins in a row, the Gold Coast Suns. They've become, in their 10th year of AFL life, Lordo, the team that they were mooted to be a long time ago. And
this game was, good. Well done, Stewie Dew. To lose 17 or 18 in a row, you must have been questioning himself, and the players would be questioning him. But some experienced bodies. We see Levi Greenwood, who will speak about Sir, and Matty Rowell. I know he's only his 3rd game, but he's a tough inside body. I think Weller's got better. Swallow, even Brandon Ellis, just having that experience at the team. And then Noah Anderson on a wing. So they've got a great mixture. They're hunting in numbers, so their pressure is phenomenal, but then they're running in waves. So they've got the perfect balance, and that's why people would love to see them on a Friday night now, because they play a really good brand of footy over the last couple of weeks. Let's hope they can keep it up.
And the hub life that the 2 SA clubs and WA clubs being in this region, it's actually given a spark to the whole concept of Gold Coast footy.
And Damian, this was the first quarter. The Crows' first quarter flop. So 19-3 inside 50s, 13-2 clearances. Handball receipt, that just shows the outside run and spread, and they're smashing them on the inside and the outside. I'll make a I don't think they're at AFL standard, the Adelaide Crows. So we've seen the Giants when they first come in, we've seen the Suns when they first come in, but they're trying to build a footy club. No one could have believed that they were going to be this bad, the Adelaide Crows. I know they made some big decisions, but they culled too much. Sam Jacobs and obviously Richard Douglas and all these players, Eddie Betts, and I know decisions need to be made, but I think they cut too thin. And now they are just a long way off AFL.
Well, someone they did cut, who was in the news last week when his former director of football at the Adelaide Crows, Mark Rashudo, made comments about him, was Hugh Greenwood, Lordo. He was solid yesterday. He got a lot of clearances, got a lot of tackles, and post-match entered into the social media space referring to what Rashudo had said about him. And look, it's playful, it's good. I liked him firing back. He was under siege because Mark Rashudo, in defending the trading of Hugh Greenwood to the Suns, said that he's basically, and I'm paraphrasing, too old, won't be in their next premiership team, and is too slow. So he said, if only I was younger and quicker, and Rashudo's fired back with, enjoy the win, but if you're younger and quicker, you might have got more than 10 touches as well. And Greenwood's hit back and said, what a shock. Pretty much saying it was always about disposals at the Crows, not about impact and what he did for the team. So, to be honest, for both of them, you've had a good win, Hugh Greenwood. I'd just leave it at that. Everyone knows you've done well. You've had a good win. I wouldn't throw anything out on Twitter. And then Rashudo again, Damian. You were strong that maybe he should resign. Was that what you said? Yes, stand down from the board.
Stand down from the board. And that would further enhance your thoughts, wouldn't it? That he's he's gone pretty childish, isn't it?
I have no idea why he would venture publicly the week after he just had, where he was forced to, and did address 8 players who had left that footy club and gave pretty open reasons. And that's all well and good, and that's fine to be saying you're open and honest about it. But you can't pick and choose when to be honest. And it was very damning what he said about some of those players, including that player there, Hugh Greenwood. Lloyd, you just mentioned there, it's a big statement you've made about the Crows about not being AFL standard. It was only round 17 last year when they beat the team they lost to on the weekend by 95 points. Round 17, 2019. And we raised this today. This is Don Pike, who was no longer the coach after last season, laughing in the box. Now, he had an explanation for that. He said it was plausible. It wasn't about the standard of the Suns. But Stewie Dew, the coach of the Suns, didn't see it that way.
You know, look at the Crows coaches box, the last quarter there. So that stings. It's got to sting. That's where we're at. That's what they think of us.
Would that have been part of what they did on the weekend?
I'm not sure, Damo, because I think it all would have been about, OK, if we do what we did last week against the West Coast Eagles, we'll beat the Adelaide Crows, and can we do it for more than 1 week? And they've breathed life into this competition, the Gold Coast Suns. It's been sensational.
Ben King got a taste of senior footy last year, Lord. He was a NAB Rising Star nominee, but he was injured at the start of the year. But he's becoming the player that you told us that he was always going to be when you coached him at school level. Yeah,
amazing that you can be 202 centimetres and be that good, below your knees, that quick. And poor Ben King, he lost his first 15 games of AFL footy. He had his first win last week. So this was probably the first game he's had balls laced out at him. He's going to... And you know what? There's a lot of poor kicks for goal in this competition. He's just about the best of them. He's just got a great technique and rarely misses. From
the bottom of the ladder, we'll go to the top of the ladder, from one Adelaide team to the other. Port Adelaide, Lauder. It's just dominating and only unbeaten team. Yeah, and we'll talk about Collingwood later, but you can trust Collingwood. And I know Port Adelaide have had a pretty good run. Now, they've beaten Gold Coast in round 1, and then obviously they've beaten the Crows in a showdown, and then they've beaten Freo. So they've got tougher tests to come, but you know, they're really experienced, they're hungry, they've got a great batch of kids as well that are coming through, so I don't think they lack for too much at Port Adelaide. So they've set themselves up beautifully. They should be aiming for top 4 now, Damo. Yep. Now, I know their opponent was a weaker one than what West Coast was forced to play in that South East Queensland hub, Lordo, but they still got the job done, and you can almost see them embracing the hub life in a way that West Coast hasn't been able to. Yeah, you're right. And their second quarter, when it got wet and it got tough, they had 22-1 inside 50s, 5 goals to nothing. They're a good footy side, the Port Power. One small problem was Xavier Dersma going down late in the game with what looked to be a really bad hamstring. Now, that will be officially diagnosed today. You've got experiences with bad hamstrings. I was pleased he grabbed in the middle, because I know Nathan Buckley and I have both grabbed very high, and that's often tendon injuries. But the way he's grabbed at it, he couldn't walk really after the game without being assisted. I think that's at least 6 weeks out for Xavier Dersma. Yep. Lions have got their season back on track, haven't they? They fixed up West Coast very easily. They took over that game after half-time, and they've got a bit of sync back in play. Oh, they're a good side, and it's pleasing because we saw Melbourne fall off the cliff, made a prelim and fell away, whereas Brisbane look hungry, which is really, really good. You just hope from the experience of losing a couple of finals that they can go one step further this year. You've got a star in Harris Andrews in defence. McCluggage could be the best midfielder in the game in 3 or 4 years. You've got one that's... Really? Yeah, I think McCluggage can win a Brownlow, Damo. That's how highly I rate Hugh McCluggage. And yet he's not the most profiled line, is he? No, but I think he'll be more damaging in time than Lachie Neale. Yeah. Look, you raised this today. Last week, the Eagles had 5 goals to 1 kicked against them by the Gold Coast Suns. It was a replica against the Lions the week after. Yeah, it was. And you look at some of these players from the Eagles. Shuey, 13 disposals. Dom Shee, 12 disposals. And Tim Kelly's having no effect on the game. So, they're apart from Nat Nui, they had nothing really to like at all from the Eagles, and right under the Brisbane Lions. And Port Adelaide and Richmond to come for the Eagles. Yeah, I know. So they need to at least pinch one of them. Blues were great against Geelong, weren't they, at the category. They were OK against Melbourne the previous week, didn't get the win, but set this game up in the first half, and it was Eddie Betts who was as crucial as anyone when it's all said and done as to how this happened. As a forward, Damo, you just rely on midfield, and the midfield of Carlton beat the star-studded Geelong midfield. And I heard David Teague this morning on Melbourne radio speak about how we wanted to isolate the defence of Harry Taylor, Blixarves, Tom Stewart. Yep. They did it beautifully. And look at some of the one-on-ones they're getting, and they don't like one-on-one matchups. So give us the layman's terms of what you're saying there. Just not allowing them to congregate together to spoil. They love to go second man up, third man up, support each other.
And one-on-one, a lot of team defences don't like it, and Geelong didn't on the weekend.
Mark Pitnett's been really good in the ruck, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Couldn't stay as a hawk with McAvoy and Segler being their preferences there, but he's already developed a pretty quick and good relationship with Paddy Cripps.
It's amazing how many ruckmen are in the system for 6-7 years and just don't get opportunities. He's been waiting behind players at Hawthorn for that opportunity. And it's pleasing to hear David Teague also say that if Cruiser was available this week, he wouldn't play. I'd stick with Pitnett because of what he's done the last 2 weeks against Gawn.
Really?
And also Stanley on the weekend. So it's really good to see. Big body. He's been around a long time and gave silver service to Paddy Cripps.
Collingwood's probably going nearly as well as Port Adelaide. Had a draw in week 2, but fixed up St Kilda, didn't they? They
did. St Kilda were full of confidence going in after that Bulldogs win in round 2, but just the pressure. So they have amazing pressure in the front third, in terms of their forward line. Their midfield with Sidebottom and Grundy and obviously Pendlebury are flying. And their back line, they've given up less points than I think any team in about 100 years. So there's not too much going wrong. And look at the skills here. Because of that pressure, St Kilda couldn't handle it really. Fought hard after half-time, so not much going wrong at Collingwood.
Do we read too much into the fact they only had kicked 2 goals after half-time, Mordo, having not kicked any goals after half-time the week before?
It's a good question you ask, because some are saying, yep, this forward line's flying and that sort of thing. But I reckon come finals time, is Brodie Myercheck enough as that long player down the line? So I'd get Cox in at some stage and just have a look at him again to see, do we need that taller player down the line?
And Stevenson coming back clearly gave it a dynamic it didn't have in the previous 2 matches. Swans going really nicely. Isaac Kenny, now 6 years into the AFL system, Mordo, is teaming beautifully with his fellow key forwards. And there's some really nice passages of play they produced against North Melbourne. Heaney focuses a lot in them, but there were others around him equally important.
Yeah, they were really brave against Essendon in that tight loss. No Lance Franklin, no Sam Reid. Tom McCartan got beaten by Tarrant and then was actually knocked out in the end and couldn't play the game. But the hands by Papley, you see Rowbottom scoring goals. I think Louis Taylor's been a good pickup for them. So just see Papley, Heaney, Taylor, Haywood. They're manufacturing goals and doing it really well.
Rowbottom as well, just doing his job there as well. We'll kick into talking about Isaac Kenny, Lordo, and you've brought some down-the-ground exclusive AFL.com.au vision to enhance what you're saying about him. His work rate is something that's not picked up in a match-day coverage, but take us through what you want to highlight here.
So they were down 13 points to 0 at this stage, and I thought, geez, they're in a bit of trouble here, and it takes moments like this from Heaney, and it's not moments, it's work rate moments as well. And he was started on the half-back flank where he's trying to relieve his team. So he contests on the wing, it's a stoppage. He's got Jasper Pittard here. So he started on the half-back flank and he just keeps work. He stays involved. A lot of players just don't work like this and they wonder why they have 5 and 6 disposals. He's a half-forward, Damo, getting 20 disposals, laying tackles, creating goals. So to not be fatigued through fitness and work rate and then hit...
And still to drill that pass,
just shows the work he's done behind the scenes over this COVID period to execute like that.
Yep. The Bulldogs had a more settled team, didn't they, with what they took into against GWS. Obviously, the keys to it in the end were Liberatore and McLean, 2 players who came into that team.
Yeah, I've been critical of Luke Beveridge in selection. It's been really confusing. And to have Liberatore out and to have Toby McLean out has just stunned a lot of Bulldogs supporters. And obviously, Gowers went out. Gardner went out, and you bring in these two.
You did say this time last week, Lotto. It's not as if you're recreating history or retrofitting what you've said. No. You said that last week. They had to come in.
They had to come in, these two. Just tough bodies. And you know who was the happiest man in the world was Bontempelli, because Libba just smashed the ball all day to try and help his teammate. They gave the job of McLean to tag Whitfield. I know Whitfield got knocked out, but he was all over him. And I thought Cordy at full-back made a big difference too. So 3 big ins. Just got to settle the team down and they get performances
back
like
on track on the back of that?
Not just yet. Not yet, because the Giants did have no Kelly, no Toby Green.
And Whitfield went down early. Richmond got smashed by Hawthorn, and it happened because they could not transfer the ball into the 50 properly.
Damo, usually they're bombing it in and you've got Tom Lynch and Revolt making a contest. But they were non-competitive, not those two in particular, but these entries, they're shallow entries. So that ball has to be going 30 metres out from goal.
Right.
But they're dropping it 45, 50 out from goal.
So what's happening? Did Clarko just stitch them up?
I thought their midfield was really poor. I think they had their lowest tackling game that I've seen. So the intent wasn't there. I've heard, I don't know if it was Dennis Pagan say, don't let that medal strangle you. And you'll ask questions about the hunger of Richmond with performances like that. So all eyes on Richmond this weekend.
It's an interesting quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've got 2 medals to
Two medals, and
weigh
some
them.
may say, do I want it? You know, have I been as hungry over the COVID period? So only they can answer that, but we'll be watching them over the next few weeks.
Some great post-match scenes with the COVID restrictions. Eddie Betts didn't want a bar of being placed in the middle, although he took the view that he'd played in many Carlton wins prior to leaving for Adelaide and then returning, but they got him in there. But he, in typical Eddie, he's the life of the party, no matter where he is.
Eddie'd be saying, I've had more hot dinners and wins than some of you have had all put together. So in the end, look at him getting into it, and that's what he brought to the table.
The energy he brings, it's incredible, isn't it?
He is, and the smiles on the faces at Carlton, it was fantastic to see.
Yeah, someone who loves a catwalk is the AFL Chief Executive Officer, Gillan McLaughlin. Now, we know he was about to address a very serious football matter, but Laura, this is the second time in 2 times he's addressed media on a mass nature where he's needed a big runway to get to the microphone.
Does he think he's in Milan?
Yeah, look at him.
So you reckon he's doing that on purpose,
Absolutely.
a big runway?
The cameras knew where he was coming from, as they did previously. And Gil, you've got to sharpen up, I think. Hey, Laura, thanks today.
Thanks, Damian.
And thanks for watching Access All Areas, and we'll be back next Monday.